So National Assembly Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula has declined calls by the DA to establish an ad hoc committee that will probe allegations surrounding the theft at President Cyril Ramaphosa's Phala farm. It's alleged millions of US dollars were stolen there, and that's raised questions around whether the president had broken the law by having large sums of undeclared foreign currency on his property. The Speaker's turning down of the DA's request comes after she also declined a petition that seeks to have the president removed in terms of Section 89 of the Constitution. That was brought forward by the ATM. So, for reaction on both these developments, let's bring in DA leader John Steenhuisen and the ATM's head of policy, Mzwanele Manyi, both our guests joining us via our video link this morning. And it's lovely to have you on the program. Thank you so much for making time. I want to begin by arguably getting your take on what is arguably the big story of the morning, and that's around these multiple mass shootings that have taken place in various parts of the country. In case you missed it, we're waking up to news this morning of 14 people being shot dead at a tavern in East London, that's in Soweto. At the same time, while we were digesting that, news came in of 4 more fatalities at another tavern in Sweet Waters, that's in Pietermaritzburg. In Katlehong, we're hearing also of 2 other deaths. There's clearly something wrong in our, handling of what's going on in taverns in the country. And so, as leaders in South Africa, I was hoping to get your sense of what you reckon should happen next. John?
Yeah, thanks very much. And obviously, our condolences go to the family and friends of those who've lost their lives in these senseless shootings. Violence has never solved any problem, and it certainly is never going to be able to resolve issues. Obviously, it plays into what I believe is a far greater breakdown of law and order in South Africa, and that is largely driven by the fact that we have a police minister who nobody takes seriously, and an under-resourced and under-equipped police service that is completely stretched thin. I'm not sure if you're aware, but we've issued a statement this morning showing that there's been a loss of 1,300 detectives during Mr. Becele's tenure as the head of the police services and as the Minister of Police. And very, very clearly, there's been a decline in policing, and it's borne out by the fact that crime stats rise every year. We keep being told about the war against gender-based violence. Those figures climb every single year. And I just think that there's a complete breakdown of law and order. And I think that there's a number of things that play into that. Obviously, there's the deprivation and poverty and unemployment, why people have to go to taverns to drown their sorrows of the fact that they don't have work, or have turned to drugs or alcohol because they feel hopeless and that there's no future for them. But secondly, a completely under-resourced policing operation, and also a breakdown of municipal governance in many of these places where taverns and the like should not have licenses to operate and should be far better regulated than they are currently.
Yeah.
So I think there's a number of things that play into this. And, of course, like in any society, law and order and the tone for law and order is set from the top. And when you have a president facing charges and questions around his conduct, you have members of the cabinet implicated in crimes and criminality, it sets a very poor tone for the rest of the country. And we're not going to be able to get a grip on law and order again in the country until we have a well-resourced and equipped police service and a government that sets example.
Yeah. You know, the Gauteng Police Commissioner in his briefing earlier this morning admitting that there is an issue of a proliferation of guns in our society. And he's saying Gauteng in particular is showing signs of an uptick in gun-related crimes. Mzwanele Manyi, is it time for our legislators perhaps to start relooking at the law?
You're not very clear. Say that again.
I was asking if perhaps this is indications that our legislators should start relooking at gun laws in South Africa.
Yeah, no, I think firstly we differ on many things with the DA, but on this issue and everything that John has said, I think we are in full agreement. But what this actually points to is that, as they say, the fish rots from the head. So if you've got a head of state that doesn't know whether it's coming or going, these kinds of things would happen. So this really is just an indication of the total insecurity that people of South Africa have now been exposed to. Because everybody can see that in South Africa you can do as you please and get away with it. If you have a situation where, for instance, you've got the head of state that is busy ducking and diving and not wanting to move and not even wanting to account to Parliament, so it means that everybody is saying, well, it's fair game to do as you please. So indeed, if the ANC, in fact, must take the blame for this, because the ANC has got the power to recall its own president. But if the ANC is not doing that, it means it is the ANC that is plunging this country into a crisis. This is the only thing. I mean, Monday morning, the ANC can resolve this thing. Just recall this guy, because you can see that he is interfering everywhere, even with the motion that we're going to talk about right now. You can see that the speaker is actually under pressure to kick the bucket down the road, because she is being pressured by this guy that is also making sure that even the Hawks investigations is not effective. How can it be that we have a head of state that has got all these institutions that must investigate him, that are all his subordinates? How are they going to investigate the man when he's still on the seat?
Right.
You know, so indeed, what we have here is a problem of two entities, the president himself and the ANC.
Sure. Yeah, let's speak about what we had actually asked you to chat to you about. You saying that the National Assembly Speaker is being pressurized by the president, and that's why she's given these particular outcomes. She, in her own reasons, obviously didn't say that. So what are you pointing to substantiate that?
Look, firstly, we've seen her letter, and if you look at her letter, actually, you can see that she's just kicking the bucket down the road. We had said that wanted this Section 89 inquired, and because we think the president has violated the entire Section 89. Section 89 has got 3 subsections. The first subsection talks to the issue of having violated the Constitution. We gave evidence in that regard to say the president has violated Section 96, has violated even the other laws, as in Cracker Act, Section 34, subsection 1. We gave that. And then the next section, the next subsection in 89 talks to the issue of misconduct. Clearly, the president has given an unlawful instruction to say to Wali Rode that he must go and do 1, 2, 3 in his farm. That was an unlawful instruction. That is misconduct, and we've given that. Thirdly, there's another ground there of just complete unable to govern. Now, if you look at the thing that even John has mentioned, is a clear issue of inability to govern. When you look at unemployment, when you look at economy is not growing, when you look at crime, all of these things, it just shows that we've got a president that is totally out of wits in terms of knowing what to do. So we thought that the speaker would be able to see all of this, but clearly the speaker wants us to match each transaction, each transgression to each subsection. So we're going to do that. So it's just a technical thing. It's incorrect to say the speaker has declined the ATM motion. No, it's not true. The speaker has not declined. The speaker has simply asked for further detail, further refinement and all of that. And in fact, one thing that we can appreciate is that the speaker has even said that her office is available to assist us to fine-tune this thing. So indeed, the motion is still on the table, has not been declined. We must just fine-tune it in a manner that the speaker wants.
Okay. I've been listening to you carefully, and the question I was asking is, you have mentioned that the speaker is being pressurized by the president, and that's why her responses have been what they are. And my question is, what evidence do you have that points to specifically that assertion?
No, it's very obvious. You must remember that the speaker is an NEC member of the ANC.
Okay.
And therefore would definitely be under very severe pressure. You must remember also, before the speaker went to her job, she is a person that had differed with the president in terms of whether the July 21 uprisings were insurrection or not insurrection. And the speaker had said it's not insurrection and all of that. And there was a whole fallout between the president. And then the next thing now, and now the speaker is actually on the back foot to have to prove her bona fides to the president. This is just politics. This is just 101 politics.
Let me
now the speaker is on the back foot to say to the president, I'm loyal to you, and my insurrection comments were not because I'm disloyal to you. So she's out there now trying to prove her loyalty to the president. That's what's happening.
Got you. All right, that's your take. John, let me bring you back into the discussion. I mean, the DA's motion or request for this ad hoc committee to be established has been turned down. Part of what the speaker has said in her reasoning is that the things that the DA is asking to be looked into are already being probed by other institutions. And so I guess the assumption here is that she doesn't want to have a redundant investigation taking place. Is that good enough?
Not good enough, and it's a spectacular act of parliamentary cowardice on the Speaker's part. and a complete abrogation of her duty as the Speaker of the National Assembly. There are two issues here. There's a criminal case that's been opened, and that is being probed by law enforcement authorities. But there are also issues that relate to Parliament's duty to hold the President accountable for his action in the exercise of the executive authority in the Republic. The President swore an oath of office to uphold the Constitution and all other law of the Republic. He also is very, very clear, according to the Executive Ethics Act, is required to prevent any conflicts of interest that may arise between his private responsibilities and his responsibilities as head of state. And I think what's happened with the Phala matter is a complete blurring of those lines. There's no reason, no sound reason whatsoever why Parliament cannot probe and hold the President accountable while the law enforcement agencies do their job. I mean, they've got to investigate a criminal matter. We need to investigate whether the President has an exercise oversight of the President to see whether his conduct has fallen short of his oath of office. It's the National Assembly's duty to hold the President accountable. And it is spectacular to witness this Speaker falling into exactly the same pitfalls as her predecessor, Baleka Mbete, did over the handling of the Nkandla matter and various other matters, where she prevented Parliament from doing its job. And Judge Zondo's report has been incredibly critical of Parliament's failure to hold the executive accountable over the last 10 to 15 years, and has rightly put a great deal of blame at Parliament's door for not heading off much of what happened over the last 10 years at the parliamentary level. And here Parliament is making exactly the same mistake again. An ad hoc committee will probe the matter, and if there's no wrongdoing, if the President hasn't violated his oath of office, if he has behaved in a lawful manner, well, there's nothing to hide. The committee will surely come to that conclusion. But the fact that once again Parliament has been turned into a presidential protection squad rather than a institution to uphold the values and principles of executive accountability is something that should enrage every citizen,
right,
the media and civil society. It should be something that is taken up as a really serious issue on behalf of the people of South Africa, because we're making the same mistakes that we keep telling ourselves we've learnt over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And I think the Speaker needs to rethink this very, very carefully, because her legacy is going to be sullied, much like some of her predecessors, who've not acted in the best interests of the people of South Africa, who've not allowed the institution of Parliament to do the job the Constitution obliges it to do,
sure,
and have instead turned it into a rubber stamp for the executive. And I think that sort of Parliament is no good to any South African. It's certainly not good for our democracy.
Coming through loud and clear, John Steenhuisen with the Democratic Alliance, Mzwanele Manyi with the ATM. To both of you, thanks for weighing in on what's happening in the country currently and what we're seeing unfold in Parliament. Really appreciate your time.